Welcome everybody to week 9 of the NFL. I'm going to try to shoot this video as quickly as I can because with some technical difficulties with my phone, this is like the third time me shooting this and I'm freaking tired. My mouth is dry, so I'm going to have some water, a little bit of a latte to keep me going through this because I'm tired. But I'm going to try to keep the same energy as the last 3 freaking times I shot this and give you guys my best plays and takes on these games. Let me start off by saying week 9, I think, is the toughest game of the toughest week of the season. I do not like these slated games. This happens a few times every year, and more often than not, when I say it's the toughest games, I seem to do my best. So we'll see what happens this week. Maybe it's a disaster, but hopefully it's another good week for us guys. 26-9 heading into week 9. I did a quick recap video earlier in the week. Saints, Seahawks, and Patriots all came through for us last week. We had the over in the Seahawks game, the Saints game, which we came up short with in that one. But the 3 sides that we took all came through fairly easily as well. So looking at these week's games, I'm just going to go through 5 games. I have 3 plays for you guys, a couple of leans. I'm not going to bet these leans by the looks of it, but just to give you guys a couple more options, I'll go through these games. So let's start off the first game here. The Chargers at Atlanta. The Chargers are -3. My lean is to the Chargers at -3. Very simply, I think the Chargers are a much better team than Atlanta. They're coming off a bye. They travel well. They play well on the East Coast. They play better on the road than at home. Atlanta's just not a good team, not a good defense. And when I look at these 2 games, listen, this week, like I said, it's tough. So try not to overthink it. There comes a point where I'm just like, okay, which team is better? If the line is close, which team do I feel is actually better? I think the Chargers are much better than Atlanta. Staley, as a head coach, he's on thin ice. And I mean, he has one of the top 5 elite young quarterbacks in this league, who I'm afraid could go wasted in LA. He's a lot better than Mariota. I mean, give me a break. Atlanta's defense is not good. They're without Terrell. Their secondary is a mess. They should have won last week, and they should have lost last week, and then they won last week. They should have lost again in overtime, and then they won. Carolina has an inept offense, and they put up a shit ton of points against this crap defense. And so the Chargers shouldn't have any problems. The issue with the Chargers is, once again, the Chargers, the Ravens, the Niners, they're injured every single year. By week 3, they have a soccer team's list on their injury report, and that's the Chargers' issues this week. They have no Mike Williams, no Keenan Allen, no Parker. These guys are banged up. That's an issue. Even if they had one of these receivers, I'd be all over them. But man, it's tough when you're missing some elite receivers. My lean is to the Chargers -3 simply because I think they're just much better than Atlanta. But I'm not going to be betting the game. Next game, this is the game I've been looking at. This is the first one that popped out to me when I looked at these slated games, and that's Vegas at Jacksonville. The Vegas Raiders are -1.5 to 2-point favorite. Very simply, not going to overthink this game. Vegas is 2-5. They're a lot better than 2-5. Okay. Jacksonville's 2-6. They are legitimately, I think, a 2-6 football team. They lost 5 in a row. They lose by 1 possession every single game, which means they play tight. They play tough, but they're a young team, and eventually losing these tight games has got to be demoralizing for them. You saw Trevor Lawrence last week in London, head down. You want to talk about inept offenses. They lost to Denver, for God's sakes, last week. That's a long flight back from London to Jacksonville after a 5th straight loss. You got to wonder if that's going to start wearing on this young team. Vegas, on the other hand, now we were against them last week against New Orleans, and what a game that was, because nothing is better than when you pick a side and you know by the end of the first quarter, I have a pretty good idea if I'm on the right side, if I'm on the wrong side, if it's going to be a grinded out type of game. My God, that game, after the first quarter, I'm like, the Raiders are toast. They aren't scoring. They're not covering. They're not winning. We're not going over the total in this game. They didn't even cross midfield last week. That was the worst display of football I've seen in a very long time. Now, last week, they had a flu bug running through that Vegas locker room, and it showed because those guys didn't practice during the week. It was a flat spot. They did not come out and play. And you want to talk about coaches on the line here, coaches on thin ice. McDaniels, you better believe the Raiders had high hopes for this team heading into the season with their additions in the offseason. 2-5 is not acceptable. Hopefully that didn't freeze because something else popped up here. Vegas didn't fly home last week. They went straight to Florida. McDaniels is on thin ice, and that ice can melt quickly in Florida. Okay, so they got to win this football game because if the Raiders lose, I talked about Arizona's coach last week. Cliff being on the chopping block. McDaniels can be right there next to him. They got to win this football game. The fact that they stayed in Florida all week tells me they aren't happy with what happened last week. They're staying in that state, focused. Jacksonville having that long flight back to London, demoralizing 5th loss in a row. Again, I'm not going to overthink this. We're getting Vegas at a discounted price. Always bet a team at its lowest point, buy low, and that's what we're doing in Vegas. You can call it a trap game. I just think the market's low on Vegas right now, maybe rightfully so. But come on, they got a better quarterback, they got better receivers, they got better running back. Maybe they don't have a better defense. Coaches are maybe both crap. But Vegas is a better team. Give me Vegas. McDaniels, baby. Don't fall through the ice. All right, there's Gators. They're fucking there in Florida, man. Get the win. Go back to Vegas, and you can't lose to Jacksonville. You just can't lose to Jacksonville. Give me Vegas -1.5 to -2. Next game, guys, Minnesota at Washington. I have Minnesota at -1.5 at a square shop, but Minnesota is -3 in places, and if you can get them at -3 or better, all over Minnesota. Washington every single week seems like they're in a trap game. So I don't know if they're in trap games every week or if the market's is this high on Washington. They were in a trap game a few weeks ago. We talked about it with Tennessee last week against Indianapolis, and they shouldn't even have won that game. Washington, but I'll tell you this much: if Washington loses, if Minnesota wins by margin in this game, Washington, their market value will plummet next week. I can promise you that. Come on, man. Washington is a 4-4 football team. And the reality is, my analysis is, at best, they're a 500 football team. Minnesota is 7-1. Get no respect. Green Bay just played in Washington a few weeks ago and they were a 4 to 5 point favorite. You're telling me Green Bay is better than Minnesota? There's no way. I understand Minnesota does not travel well. I understand they played down to their opponent, Kirk Cousins. They seem that they can beat any team, but they'll go into Washington and they'll lose. I get that. He's going against his former team here as well. But come on, man. Kirk Cousins, Heineke. Come on, let's not disrespect Kirk, that much here. I mean, Heineke's not an NFL quarterback. Jefferson, Thielen, Delvin Cook, they're loaded, man. Washington they're just not that good. Give me Minnesota in this game. Again, you can call it a trap line, but Washington's in these games every damn week. Vikings -1.5 for me. All day. My third pick, so I got Vegas -1.5, Minnesota -1.5. I got this next game here, Seattle at Arizona. Arizona is -1.5 to -2, depending on where you get them. They're right around that number where I'm looking. I'm going to take Arizona. I know everybody's going to be on Seattle this week. There's a lot to love about Seattle. They might have Coach of the Year. They might have, I don't know if Geno Smith is comeback player of the year because I don't know what he's come back from, but he's having a hell of a year. Seattle is offensively is very good. Geno Smith is having a great year. Metcalf, Lockett, Kenneth Walker III. They're a much more rounded offense than Arizona. Defensively, Arizona is not good. They have no pass rush. They have no secondary. And Seattle's defense, the first 6 weeks of the season, we thought was like one of the worst defenses of all time. The last couple weeks they picked it up, but you got to give me 3, 4, 5 weeks of consistent play for me to actually believe that you're somewhat of a good defense. So where are we going with this game? These two teams played a few weeks ago, and Seattle won 19-9 in a dead nuts under when everyone thought was going over the total of 50. This total, again, is around 50. And I wouldn't be surprised if this one goes over. I'm going to take Arizona getting the win here. I understand. Listen, Arizona might have the better team. Seattle's definitely playing better. They got a better coach. They got maybe a quarterback that's playing better receivers, running back. Defense maybe is a wash. But this is a divisional matchup, and it's tough to win back to, both division games, especially if the second one's on the road. Arizona's a different team with Hopkins. I'm hoping, Kyler Murray can get loose, use his legs, find Murray. Listen, they win this game, they're only one game back of the division. So contrarian picking Arizona, but sometimes those picks can make you look really smart or really stupid. We'll take Arizona. I've been on a lot of Arizona games this year. We'll see what happens. But give me Arizona here. I think they're the right side in this game. But it's tough going against a red hot Seattle team right now. Another game that I was looking at, I don't think I'm gonna get there, is the Rams and the Bucks, guys. Bucks are -2.5. Pains me, man, when I'm a Rams fan, but the reality is their defense has been mediocre at best. They have no offensive line. They can't run the football. They're one-dimensional in offense going to Cooper Kupp. And Cooper Kupp, he's going to play, but he's not going to be 100%. Tampa Bay, on the other hand, you want to talk about two teams that have just underachieved this season. These are the two teams. Tampa's lost 3 in a row. That offense looks all out of sorts. Brady looks like he's ready for retirement. But listen, the Bucs are coming off some extra rest. They're at home. You want to talk about the markets falling on Washington if they lose. They're going to fall on Tampa Bay if they lose this game, like they have on Green Bay. This is a double revenge game for Tampa Bay. They lost twice to the Rams last year, once in the season and then in the playoffs in Tampa. And the Rams, although the Bucs made a late comeback, the Rams dominated that football game. That's got to be in the back of this Bucs team's heads. I think the Rams maybe are a better overall team, but that O-line and running game is hard to ignore, and it hasn't shown any signs of improvement. Maybe Cam Akers plays this week. I don't know. He thought he was going to be traded. I don't know. It's tough for me to bet this game, but I got to lean Tampa's way on the revenge side. The Bucs having the extra time rest. The Rams making a cross-country travel game here. It's a lean to Tampa Bay. It's a lean to the Chargers. It's tough, man. It's a tough week, but I'm definitely going Vegas against Jacksonville. I'm going Minnesota against Washington. Come on, Washington, man. And I'm taking Arizona against Seattle. Those are my 3 plays, guys. We're 26-9 on the season. Let's keep it rolling. Like, subscribe, comment, join the Patreon. A lot of these winners the last few weeks have been fairly easy winners. Like I said last week, that's when you know you're on the right side, is when you don't have to sweat it. Not every win's easy, obviously, but when your team is like winning from the get-go, you're just on the right side of things. And hopefully we can keep that going this week. It's a tough week, but good luck, guys. We'll see you in week 10.